Okay, Tanya, inside out at G4 Tafshin Pei Vav. We're up to Perek Yud Ches, and let's try to do Yud Ches and Yud Tes today. Although last time I said that we only did the first Perek, so I don't know what we'll get through. Yud Ches is arguably the most important chapter in Tanya. Very arguably. You'd probably put it up there. I mean, up there, definitely in the top three, and I could argue that it's the most important chapter. Okay, so if you remember, chapters 16.
If it's the most important, then we definitely should not do two chapters and concentrate.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, chapter 18 and 19 is right, but chapters 18 and 19 are really just one big arichas. So we'll see. Let's see what happens. We've never been matzliach in the past. There's no reason to think we will be this week. So. If you remember, up until chapter 15, we were basically explaining all the pieces, yeah? And then, up until chapter 9, we were opening up the lexicon of the Tanya, etc. Then chapter 10, we spoke about the Tzaddik, 11, the Rasha, 12, 13, 14, 15, about the Benoni, yeah? So putting it together. Now, by chapters 16, 17, we move into the Avoida of the Benoni. So by chapters 16, 17, the avoider of the Benoni, we discussed there's kind of two options, yeah? If you have a powerful mind, that's why by the way, Benoni is Loshen Bina, yeah? Benoni is he's the man who uses his koyach seichel to conjure up, so to speak, vivid enough imagery and seichel dika binyanim that he can have an emotional experience mamash. That is who the Benoni is. That's like his l'chachila avoda. That he's using his mind, yeah, in a very methodical, powerful way, and he's actually developing or giving birth, so to speak. He's actually giving birth to real, palpable emotions, physiological phenomena in his body. His heart is pumping faster, his heart is pumping to a different rhythm, he's feeling it in his body, yeah? Like we said, lahavdil, like these Hollywood films, where they've kind of cracked the code. They've cracked the code of how to poke your heart, you know? Nowadays, if you can keep your eyes on the screen for long enough, there's a good chance you will walk away having some kind of feeling in a Hollywood film, because they just know how to do it. They've just had so much practice. So the Benoni, the Havdil, the first option of the Benoni is the guy whose mind is powerful enough that he can actually, by using his mind in an intelligent way, can actually create palpable emotions in his goof. Okay?
In contrast to the Russia who does not use his... So
the Russia could also do that as well. The Russia could do that. We're just talking about the avoider of the Benoni, which would include the avoider of the Russia.
Well, what makes the Benoni is that he uses that he's misyavin, essentially.
That
he uses his bina.
What did you say? Misyavin.
It's sort of like what avoda puts him in the status of becoming a Benoni is through a practical, right?
So that's a really good question. The difference between again, remember the Benoni and the Russia, we're not talking about people. Yeah, we're on a more sophisticated understanding here. We're talking about inner experience.
Okay.
The Benoni is a Russia who behaves like a tzaddik. Meaning his inner world is, he has his own agenda. He has a personal agenda. The tzaddik there's no me there.
Right.
I'm completely in line with Hashem. The Benoni, there's me. It's me serving God.
Right.
Yeah, the Russia could also be me serving God, 99.9% of the time, but there is the efsharut that he could do something misaligned. And you realize the difference in that. The difference between a guy who could potentially, if the situation was such that he could potentially fall and be nichshel with another lady, a married man, yeah? But it would need to be, he would need to have drunk it would need to have been, he'd need to be tired, he'd need to be in a different country, he'd need to be, and it would need all these, but there's an efsharut that could happen, yeah? And then there's another guy that just couldn't happen.
And that's the Beinoni.
That's the Beinoni. The Beinoni is the guy who just couldn't cheat on his wife. He would run away. Now it doesn't mean that he doesn't want to do the Aveira. The Tzaddik doesn't cheat on Hashem because he's repulsed by the Aveira. He sees a woman not dressed properly and he's like, that's disgusting. Yeah? The Beinoni would be, okay, that's disgusting, yeah? And there's a taiva there, but it's unimaginable that he would actually do anything. Meaning, now why? Why is that? And that's where your question comes in. It could be, the guy could be that he's just scared stiff of Gehenna. The Alter Rebbe doesn't even talk about that as an option here, but that it could be. Lemaisa, if he's just scared stiff of Gehenna, he would be in the Geder of a Beinoni because he would never do an Aveira. But that's a very low level Beinoni. The highest level Beinoni is, well, that's just not right. There's no thought of reward. It's just, I'm a creation. God created me. How could I do something neged his ratzon? Finished. You with me?
Yeah.
So the Beinoni is this sliding scale of why, but the point is, it's not like the tzaddik who doesn't need anything external to stop him. The Beinoni is drafting either on the two extremes, the fear of Gehenna or his adherence to what's right. But it's not him himself. You with me?
What do you mean it's not him himself?
Meaning he himself
is external.
It's not him himself. It's something external. He's putting
his adherence is from himself.
Well, it's from an external part of himself.
It's totally b'davar.
There's a lot of ways of saying it. It's totally, meaning that he's using something. He wants to mamash eat the treif sandwich, but he's like, how can I do that? God doesn't want me to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. I personally, if for example, like Hashem said, you know what, today we're having a
off day.
An
off day.
We're having when I was a kid, there was a thing called Mufti Day. Yeah, in England you wear school uniform, and they'd have one time a year Mufti Day where you could come without school uniform. Yeah. Anyway, so if Hashem was, one day we're going to let go. Let me ask you this question. This is a good question. If Mashiach came along,
have 3 days.
What?
You actually have 3 days.
What do you mean?
Between Yom Kippur and Sukkot.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah, if it came out again, this is never going to happen. Yeah, it's just hypothetical. If you found out that there was a day off where there was absolutely no ramifications for Aveira, somehow, whatever, Hashem made an aeroplane fly through the sky with a big smoke thing. He opened up the heavens. He said, listen, it's been 5,786 years. I'm giving you the day off, guys. Whatever you want. No Gehenna, no feeling guilty, no nothing. But it's not my rotzon. I'm giving everyone a patur, like Donald Trump can do. Would that affect you? He's not going to hold it against you. He's not going to be angry with you. What?
There's movies like that.
Say again?
There's the Purge. Like there's a movie like that. That's like there's one day the government does not enforce any laws and you can't be part of the process.
Lemaisa, how would that affect you?
There's a boy in Chaim Berlin that they found out he wasn't Jewish. He thought he was Jewish from Thailand. He said, okay, today you can go have a cheeseburger. Today, right now, it's free.
So he did?
He didn't. I think he did not.
So again, don't get me wrong. There is the idea of being...
Here's a question on what you're saying is there exists a world in where you're saying the difference between the Benoni and the Russians, there exists a possibility of Avera.
By who?
By the Russia.
By the Russia.
That doesn't exist by the Benoni.
Yeah.
Like Hilchas Nida, for example, right? We have Archakos.
Yeah.
Right? What are the Archakos? Because if we didn't keep the Archakos, we would do the Avera. Because we know that we don't have...
Not if you were a Benoni.
I'm saying... I think that makes me a Russia. Then it's because if I knew
remember we're talking.
Or like, think about like an alcoholic, right? He knows if I'm recovered at 10 years sober, right? If I walk into a bar, that's the point of no return. I'm not going to be able to hold myself back from
So if that's the case,
so
then
what does
you
he do? He
are
has Zarchakas,
that
he doesn't
example.
go into the bar.
That is Bechinas Russia.
That's Bechinas Russia.
That's what it says. You should see yourself as Karasha. A Beinoni is Karasha. But you're meant to see yourself...
Bechinas Karasha within the Beinoni. But he's
meaning,
Beinoni.
no. If a person... See, this when you go deeper, Rav Yochanan speaks it out clearly in a Maimah. That it was clear to me until... But I never said it like he said it. That a Russia doesn't actually need to do a sin. He just could do a sin. You hear the difference? Like if I found out, like let's say there's a guy, not me. If this guy found out that in the wrong circumstance, yeah, his wife could be over an Eishes Ish with him. You know, his wife could be over, yeah. If he found that out, but then some diviner came to him and said, "But don't worry, because I've looked into the future and I see for the next 60 years until you're nifta, this situation is never going to happen, and she's going to be faithful to you." Do you hear that? It's an interesting thing to think about.
Right.
What's the difference? Like, what about, you got this ugly, smelly, horrible little man, yeah, who's plotting to be unfaithful to his wife, but he just can't, no one's prepared to entertain the thought, yeah. It's like when you think about, like, let me ask you another question.
I think there's also a world in which you know that you're not going to put yourself into that situation.
That's part of the Beinoin, but then that's part of the Beinoin's armor. Again, we're not talking Lemaisa. We're trying to understand it conceptually.
Because based on what you said, I would say, looking at myself, I'd say for sure, because I know there are many situations in which I would do the Avera, and that's why.
Okay, but now again, Suli, right? Come with me, man. Get out of this idea of he's a Russia, he's
right,
a
no, I
he's
understand that.
We're talking about experiences.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. You come out of Shachris, yeah, and you've had a really elevated Shachris,
right,
and somebody comes up to you and says, "Listen to what I heard about so and so." What would you say?
Right. So then in that situation,
give me more.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. The safe is talking about inner experiences, and there's also like Averas that you've become a Beinoini in. Right. Like I couldn't pay you all the money in the world to eat a cheeseburger. Yeah, you just wouldn't be able to do it. You'd probably throw up. So on that bechina, yeah, that's the inyan of a Beinoini. And it could be that you wouldn't do it for a number of reasons, but there's a reason. You with me?
Right.
That's the Beinoini. He's got external things that make the Aveira impossible. Whereas the Russia, he could look like a very, very good guy. We spoke about the Russia could look like a very, very good guy. Just there is the possibility of the Aveira taking place. So then again, like that's what I'm trying to say. It's experiences. There are times when you're weak and tired and vulnerable, and you could do something that you wouldn't do at other times.
So in that experience,
so even when you're not doing the Aveira.
So is there points of an experience where you're the tzaddik also?
Absolutely.
Like that situation when you're coming out of shul.
That would be considered like the tzaddik in a sense, where you've got no feeling towards it.
Vis-a-vis that particular Aveira, I guess.
It splits up into all different. You can look at it on a macro, on a micro, on a mini, on a nano, on all different.
Right.
You could cut
so in a sense, we all have tzaddikim within us, and we all have Rishayim within us.
We cycle through the funniest thing is the least available. It's really what we said is so good for what we're about to talk about. The least available experience to you. We have the five levels. Yeah, you have the Rash of Varaloi, the Rash of the Tovloi, the Beinoini, the Tzaddik Varaloi, the Tzaddik Tovloi. Yeah. We've been through these ideas, but I don't expect anyone to remember this. But the least available to us in this generation is the tzaddik v'ra'aloi, the lower level tzaddik. That's the least available to us, where you've done such avoida, whether it's however that avoida take place, where you've done such avoida where you're just on fire for God. You're just on fire for the Rebbeinu Shalom, you're on fire for Torah, you're on fire for mitzvahs, and you're feeling repulsed by Avera, etc. Yeah, that's a very unavailable experience to us. How often? When was the last time you felt like that? You literally couldn't contain yourself, like you couldn't fall asleep because of shabbos the next morning. When was the last time that happened? Exactly. So that situation is not available to us, but it's very, very rare in outdoor. We're too distracted. We don't have powerful enough minds.
What about Sadiq V'Tov, though?
The what?
What about Sadiq V'Tov?
So it was more available, I think, in previous generations where there weren't so many distractions, and there weren't so many distractions, and the other option wasn't as appealing as it is to us nowadays. You know, imagine a world where there's no computer games or online pornography. That's a very different world, yeah? It's a very different world. You know, to go and do the Averas 200 years ago, you have to dress in black, go out in the middle of the night. I'm not saying people didn't do it, but that takes a little bit more avoider than you're watching the news on YouTube and in the toilet, yeah, and then bing, something pops up. Before you know it, you're looking at the most repulsive, disgusting things you could ever imagine, yeah? That wasn't available, so, you know, people didn't have even the fantasy imaginations that we can have nowadays. It's ridiculous even if you get rid of the telephone, the things that us as men in 2025 have seen, yeah? Whoever saw that 200 years ago? Anything like that. These images that are burned into our minds, yeah, that whatever. So
you were saying that.
Wait, what was the point? Yeah. So nowadays the idea of actually creating genuine, palpable, and a real where we're mamash aligned with God on an emotional level, that's really very rare. The Benoni is a very real level to us, where
so he was asking, what about that? So that was, you said Tzaddik V'Ralo is a very different.
Yeah, so we'll talk, the Tzaddik V'Tovlo is a completely different thing, and we have now real, in fact, is exactly this Torah, is we have more accessibility to Tzaddik V'Tovlo in our door, according to my Rebbe in the name of the Babich Rebbe, than any Doros before now. I'll explain. I will explain that. But now the Benoni is hopefully the default level. Our default. We have moments of weakness where we sin. Yeah, that's the experience of a Russia. Or we have moments of weakness where we want to sin, but right now we can't because of X, Y, and Z. But we would if it was in front of us. Yeah, that's a Russia. Whereas the Benoni is like, wow, I could really appreciate doing X, Y, and Z, but I wouldn't actually do that. Yeah, of course not. So that's hopefully our default experience. You with me?
Yeah.
If somebody comes up to you and presents you with an Avera, they're like, look at this trafe that I've got look at this trafe picture. You'd be, leave me alone. That would be your default position. There could be a very weak moment that you have where you're like, okay, let me see. Yeah, then that's the beginnings of the Russia. And at that moment, let's say the guy didn't come up to you and show you the phone. What changed? Nothing changed. On the level of pshat, something big changed. On the level of pneumius, when you're talking about the mensch, nothing's different. So when you think about this, like everybody will say that Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, was the worst person of all, yeah? Let me ask you a question. The guy who went into that shul in Manchester, yeah? He killed one, I think he killed two people. I think he killed one person, I think. Yeah?
He killed one, the police killed the other.
And what?
The police killed the other.
Yeah, by accident. It was like friendly fire thing. So this guy killed one mensch, one yid. Yeah? Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, killed 6 million yidden. Yeah? So now we call Hitler the worst, most evil satanic, yeah? I'm not saying he isn't. And this guy, this guy killed one mensch. You can't compare the two. You realise if this guy had the seichel and the resources and the connections, and he was born in the time and the place and the language and the koyach, yeah? You think he wouldn't be killing 6 million yidden? So on pshat level, you're right. You can't compare the mensch. He was an idiot. I mean, I always think about that guy.
About every Hamasnik.
Exactly, that's the point. This is what he sees.
Even the ones who didn't do anything.
Exactly. The guy. There was, even the guy who, on his way, there's a book that I read as a kid called The Secret Agent by Joseph Conrad. You heard of Joseph Conrad? He was a Russian. He was a writer. So he wrote a story of this guy, of this idiot kid who was trying to set off a bomb in London, and in Hyde Park he fell over on the bomb and he exploded himself. He didn't kill anyone, he just killed himself. The Misa, when you think about it, what's the difference between him and the if he was set on killing as many, that's what Chassidus is. Chassidus strips away all the graphics. We're not worried about what you actually did. We're worried about who you are. But the who you are is layered as well, because this is very nuanced, because the who you are is the tzaddik is just through and through. I'm with you, God. The Beinoni, who he is there's me as well, but I'm containing myself. Do you see? So it's so there's the actual you're godly, and then there's the you're not godly, but you are a Beinoni, meaning that you wouldn't do anything wrong. So there's even levels to the inner person. You've got like the guy who's a paedophile, yeah, Rachmanas, who's actively involved, yeah, Rachmanas. And then you've got another guy who has the same tivers, but he would never dream of doing anything like that. You realise you're talking about a completely... and then you've got another guy who doesn't have any tivers. He's like, can't relate to it, Bichlal. It's more complex. But when you strip away the graphics and you stop asking... Like that guy, I was talking about that guy in Nevada, in Las Vegas. He shot dead 60-odd people, he's in the hotel room just shooting people with a machine gun. Yeah?
Sniper rifle.
Whatever he did. Anyway, he killed a lot of people. He killed mamash over 60 people.
He had a lot of high-powered sniper rifles.
He what?
He had a lot of high-powered sniper rifles.
Yeah. He was an intelligent psychopath. You get a lot of other psychopaths who aren't as clever as him, who kill 5, 6, 12 people.
In those
what's the difference?
So
you understand?
Right, so those are objectively a Russian. Like you could say objectively, that person is a Russian, right? Like Hitler is objectively a Russian. Then there's the subjective with the Beinoni. Is that the idea? That's objectively the Beinoni. The Beinoni has experiences that are a Russia experience, and there are experiences that are a tzaddik experience. Again,
we're not talking... So you keep bringing it back to a person. Right. You can cycle through the experiences. So the experience when someone comes up to you and says, "Listen to this lashon hara."
But we also have in the Torah there is a definition of a Russian,
that's
maybe what's making this.
That is pshat, and that's exactly what the Gemara says. What's a tzaddik? 51% mitzvahs, 49% of aveiros. What's a Rasha? 51% aveiros, 49% mitzvahs. What's a Beinoni? 50-50. It's exactly the point. This is what Sefer Tanya is trying to do. Is it's trying to take you again. You need to live on that level. There is a difference between the guy in Manchester and Hitler Yamach Shemoy on an Olam Hazeh level, and you have to deal with them differently. Yeah. But on a panemius level, which is what Chassidus is about, which is what the Tanya is about, the Tanya doesn't see a difference. This guy would have killed 100 million Yidden if he could have, but he was an idiot. So he couldn't do it. He just ended up killing one guy. What's the difference? What, just that this guy got born in time, place, and had a good mind and the power of Dibor? That's not his fault. They're both Rishoyim. If the guy had the same Kalim, he would have gone out and done the exact same thing. That is the difference between Pnimius of Torah and the Chetzonius of the Torah. You need the Pshat, and that's the Mishpat. You need that. That's how the world works. If this guy, there's the attempted murder is different to murder. But see, we can even go further. That guy killed one Yid. What about on the way there? Let's make it even more interesting, yeah? He's driving his car, his intent, his plan is to drive into the shul, to knock over as many Yidden as possible and kill them, to jump out with a machine gun, and then to finish the rest, and then to blow himself up, and whatever. That's his plan, yeah? On the way to shul, yeah, he actually has a head-on collision with a car of terrorists who were they were going to a different shul to do something comparable, and they all died. He's now a good guy. not only did he not kill anyone, he actually prevented another 100 Yidden from getting killed because he had a head-on collision with these guys who were on their way to kill them. Right. Do you know what I'm saying?
For everyone, you can say
that sounds excellent.
What?
That sounds excellent.
But do you hear what I'm saying? When you get rid of the graphics and that's called lifnim mishur sadin. Yeah, when you get away from din and you go inside, what's the difference? Let's say that guy didn't die. Yeah, he had a head-on collision. He killed the terrorists in that other car. He came out without a scratch. Now, what do the police do with that man?
Give him a reward.
What do you do with him? I'm just saying that you can't put him in. You can't send him to the electric chair, can you? But Lemaisa, he's as bad as Hitler, Machshamoy. This is what Chassidus is. Let go of all the graphics and just be connected to what's really going on. That meaning that you still have to play the game of the graphics. That's called being Jewish. Shalom Aleichem. But and this is what these 5 levels are helping us understand. You hear what the Rebbe is doing here? So that the Beinoni is the man who internally, there's a person there. There's an independent human being there with his weaknesses, with his tivers, with his loves, etc. Yeah? But he's somehow guarding himself with whatever method he's using, which is protecting him from ever doing anything wrong. That's different to the guy who's completely aligned with God, who won't do anything wrong. But Lemaisa, what's the difference? You don't see any difference. This is one of the reasons why you understand the sophistication of this idea, understanding a tzaddik on this level. What?
I had to run out, so I feel like I missed half the
Just the point is when I don't want to say anything about Shimon Morgenstern. I'm sure he's a tremendous tzaddik. I'm just saying the reasons why a lot of us say he's a tzaddik are not in line with what the Tanya is saying. You know, the reasons why we think he's a tzaddik is not, we don't really know. For sure, if he doesn't Aveira, which I'm sure he doesn't, then you know that he's not in the gather of Beinoni or tzaddik. But a real tzaddik is a man who, again, I'm not saying he's not a tzaddik. I'm just trying to say when you've got the definitions clear from Sefer Tanya, I don't know where there's any other definitions like this at tzaddik. I'm sure there are, but I don't know them. Then this whole thing of he's a tremendous tzaddik and you should see this guy's mom should be tzaddik. Yeah, you stop. You might not get into an argument over them. You shouldn't, but you won't be saying that.
Well, actually, the bar is pretty low, shot-wise for a tzaddik, because you only have to be 51% mitzvahs.
Well, that's on the external level. But again.
But the bar is not low at all.
Because we're dancing a little bit back and forth between the Tanya definition and
we've got two separate. We've got the halacha and then we've got the Chassidus. They're two different worlds.
But I don't think they're contradicting at all. If you look at Rambam's definition of a tzaddik in Russia, right? And he says that everybody should look at themselves as a benoni, that everything that they do will offset the balance, not only within them, but in the whole world. And set the world either towards tzidkut or towards rishut, right?
That's the pshat. That is the pshat definition of the tzaddik.
That is the pshat of what Rambam says, but it's not really contradicting that, because if you see yourself as a benoni and not as a tzaddik or not as a rasha, then you're forced to always do the right thing. Otherwise, if you see yourself as a tzaddik gamor or as a rasha gamor, you're going to say, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm already a tzaddik gamor. If I do one aver, it's not a big deal. Or if
that's
you say,
very intelligent.
I'm a rasha gamor. So it doesn't matter what I do. If I do another aver, what's the difference?
Let me go in a different direction though.
But it doesn't contradict.
No, you're saying that's very, I hear that 100%. Makes a lot of sense to me. But let's go in a different direction. The Balatanya just doesn't care about all of these questions that we've been asking. He just wants you to chap that there's you have shlita over you, then there's your behavior. Just get that clear. You want to put yourself in this box, in that box. Don't be silly. Come on, get on with it. That's what this is the problem. This is what he uses these 5 madregas to just explain how the system works. There's who you are, then there's this level of shlita that you have over yourself, and then there's your behavior. And then there's halacha. How does that work out? Okay, now we're just using these 5 people, these 5 experiences to get that clear in our head. Sorry?
Why is halacha? Halacha
It's
is
not-
a framework which you are carrying out.
Well, yeah, well, it means if there's an objective right and wrong, meaning it's all very good being in line with God, but if you don't know what that means, if that doesn't have any halacha to it, then who cares?
Okay.
Because that's behaviour is on that level of halacha.
Right.
So that's what I meant. There is an objectively good behaviour that we should strive to. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like it's clever, it's ridiculous. It's so sophisticated. It's so elegant, and he's just using these things, these 5 personalities, so to speak, just to get it clear to help you understand how you work. And I'll tell you, I had this on. It's all so tied up with what we're learning. What is it that causes every Jew to do an Aveira? Same thing. Rushtus. Thank you.
What?
What's Rushtus? Huh?
Oh, okay.
Rushtus, yeah. Adam, was it? Adam, yeah. He's only over if a Rushtus enters him. Yeah. So, what is that? And I'll tell you, I'm pretty clear on this whole thing. I've been learning it for years. I've been writing about it for years. I've been teaching it for years. Yeah, I got the whole thing clear on some kind of level. And I told you about this. Yeah, for the Sheva, by Teva, I love to smoke. Yeah, like anything, just whatever. It's just I love smoking. Yeah, a nagila, an electric cigarette, weed, whatever it is. I love. That's my thing. Yeah, so. I made a neder a bunch of years ago I quit, yeah, and I now smoke just on Purim, and then so I decided I was going to smoke for the whole week of my son's wedding, for all the Sheva brachos. I told you this? Yeah. So anyway, so I went back to smoking, and there's a lot of interesting things I learned from that. Anyway, a couple of days ago, I don't know if it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I haven't smoked now for a couple of weeks since the last Sheva brachos, so the nicotine's for sure in my system. And my second son who drives my car, he left a packet of cigarettes in my car. Yeah, so I saw the cigarettes. It wasn't even in my. They were there for a week. It wasn't in my mind. I'm not a smoker. I mean, I am as well, but I don't smoke, so it wasn't in my mind. I'm in Shachris. I think it was. Yeah, it was. It came into me at the end of Pacific Zim, I think. This as soon as you've davened, you're going to go and have a cigarette, and it was I was as an observer and as an observer really involved in this. You're going to have a cigarette. I'm like, no, you're not. Yeah, you are. And what? So what is it like? So I'm fighting. And thank God I'm in shul davening, yes, I'm not going to have a cigarette. There were times there where if shul ended at that moment, yeah, there was a bunch of moments in that struggle, over that half an hour period, where if I was just in my car with a lighter and a cigarette, I would have had a cigarette, no question, yeah. And I'm like, I know this, I understand what's going on. This taiva has come into me that I'm not allowed to give into, and I want it so much. And this is the thing. When you have a taiva that comes into you, and you can appreciate it as a passing taiva, we've said this endless times, yeah. You realise it's just a breeze moving through you. You can kind of white knuckle it for that moment, and it will go through. The minute you mistake yourself for that taiva, when you identify with that taiva, gone. You're not there. You're the taiva. You're the smoking the cigarette. That's what you are. So that's obviously going to express itself as smoking the cigarette. So I went through this epic battle where it was this is ridiculous. Out of nowhere it came in, and then whatever happened, and I actually asked, and asking Hashem for some help, and he really gave me some help, Hashem. And by the time I actually got into my car, I drove home with the cigarettes and a lighter sitting there. And then when I got out of the car, I threw them in the bin, and I was oimed. But that's the ruach. Just the ruach. Again, like I said, I had experiences of that through that half an hour. Experiences of Russia,
Even though a whole year you did it, even though a whole year you were totally...
We're talking about right now. That's all there is. There's right now. Everything else is just...
So some people came in and
It's just
shot
a
you.
stage for now. What?
Hypothetically, if in that time of Russia, someone came in and shot you, right?
Came in and shot me.
Yeah, let's say not you Chas v'shalom, but let's say somebody experienced that you right now that of Russia, and then their life unexpectedly ends. So do they die in Russia then? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Ask Hashem.
No, it's 49:51.
who knows? Who knows any of these questions? This doesn't interest me.
Honestly, one thing I'm very uncomfortable with, just in general, like over these Sherman, I'm starting to understand kind of the system. It's like everyone's Becheskas Russia in a way. It's just
No.
Yeah, well,
Because Benoni,
that's the drama.
with the potential of Russia.
Well,
it's a potential.
listen to the first words of Tanya. Listen to the first words of Tanya. Mashpin oisoti tzadik. Yeah, va'al tirasha, va'afilu im kol ha'oyam kulo oyim mechatzadik ataya b'necha karasha. See yourself karasha, not as a barasha. See yourself karasha, meaning you have to be choshesh that you can mamash fall. Don't ever think you're even a beinoini. A beinoini, there's no chance. Just like when somebody hands you the cheeseburger and $100 and says enjoy, you'll throw it in their face. Yeah. But don't assume that you're that. Don't drop your guard. That's the point.
Right, okay.
Definitely don't think yourself as a tzaddik, but don't even think of yourself as a beinoini. A beinoini can't do an aveira, but for a different... Well, it's not a different reason. The tzaddik can't do an aveira. For what reason?
There's no time.
There's no reason.
There's no reason.
That's the point. This is really the way of this is the way of crystallizing it. The Russia doesn't do an aveira. Why? Kacha.
Because he chose not to at this moment.
No.
Russia does not.
Oh, sorry, not the Russia. Sorry, Slicha, I made a mistake. The tzaddik doesn't do an aveira.
Does not do an aveira. He has 50-50 chance of doing it, not doing it. At this moment, he chose not to do it.
And okay, fine. But if he couldn't do it, like me, that was a good experience that I had to give this over right now, because I went through experiences in that. If you look at life as now, yeah, there's now, and then there's now, and then there's now, and we're not talking, which is really how it is, as opposed to like an hemshech zman. Yeah, there were moments when God didn't exist in my world, and I was ready to have a cigarette, and then there were moments when God existed, but not in a profound way. Whereas I was kind of convincing myself that He existed, and I was shoyle over it. But you hear what I said? But the tzaddik just doesn't have the time. So the Beinoini doesn't do the aveira for a siba, for a reason. Fill in the blank, whatever blank that is. But I'll tell you one thing: if that blank is Gehenna, that he's scared of Gehenna, zman, that will probably backfire. Because if a person is just really caught up in their own pleasure and avoiding their own pain, then eventually the pleasure will be too much to say no to. And he'll, so to speak, like the way Rev Noach Weinberg said it, he said, if the devil were to pay more, that's really the situation. And that is I think, the Balatanya's issue. The Balatanya's issue with Schar and Oynesh is that behemshech zman, it's not a valid option. It's good for a band-aid, yeah, to stop you doing that, to just stop you from clicking on that thing, yeah. That for that moment, fantastic. But if your whole world becomes schar and oynesh, what I've seen, what I think it does, is it engenders a very, very deep selfishness, which is very bad, because a person can look very good on the outside, but his wife is usually having to go through. I had a very deep experience with this, where this guy, who everybody loves, literally, he's just such a hosh of guy, speaks so well, so intelligent, so wonderful, yeah. His wife, all of a sudden, went mad, yeah. She went crazy, and she actually came to our house. And she sounded nuts. She's got these voices in her head. She's all this, she sounded crazy. And then I spoke to the husband, and as they were getting divorced, he came to our house for Shabbos. And I've always thought of him as this sterling, wonderful guy. And after spending a whole Shabbos with him, I realized he was such a narcissist or a psychopath. Not of. I mean, I don't know behind closed doors what he would do, but he was so involved in self, but his speech was so soft, and so it was an amazing thing. And I realised that everyone loves this guy, and his wife is like, she doesn't know where to put herself because she doesn't exist in his world. So she's got this guy who everybody thinks is a sterling, she's got a husband who everybody thinks is this amazing sterling person, yeah? And he doesn't believe that she exists. So you're going to develop voices in your head to keep you sane, because my husband he can't appreciate that I exist. That's a Russia. That's a real Russia. So you know what I'm saying? It's a whole different, it's just it's so much more than what meets the eye.
Rabbi Diamond, you said that Tzadik V'Tovlo is nowadays more available to us than Tzadik V'Ralo.
Let's not go there yet. Let's not go there yet. 'Cause we explained it clearly, I hope, when we went through chapters 10 and 11, where we explained the whole thing. But it's a complex, it's a nuanced difference that makes a big difference. But the Tzadik V'Raloi is emotionally aligned with God, and the Tzadik V'Tovloi, the essence of his human soul, the pleasure of his human soul, has been transformed into godliness. So one is a very, very, very elevated human being, the Tzadik V'Raloi, meaning that he has a humanity to him. That's called Ra'aloi. He has a sense of independence, yeah? Although he would never do anything, he's emotionally aligned with God. The other guy is, to call him human is already a bit of a, it's a what's the word? It's a concession. He's not like human like we are human. Yeah, he's a godly human being. We've just laid all the framework here. So this is really exactly what this chapter is about. And we're talking in chapters 18, 19, what's called the Ava Mesuteres. Yeah, the hidden love. The Ava Mesuteres of a Yid. And now it gets confusing in Tanya because we're not talking about an emotion. This is called the hidden love, but it's not an emotion. An emotion is a compulsion towards or a repulsion away. According to the Tanya system, I know there's other systems out there, yeah, but according to the Tanya system, the way I understand it, what I understood from my Rebbe, that the two emotions are love and fear, Ava and Yira. Ava is an attraction towards, it's the energy that brings you towards someone or something, and actually more if you want to be really nuanced and technical, it's actually the energy that makes you pull them to you. Yeah, but that's a very beautiful, subtle point. We're not going to talk about that. Then there's fear, which is a repulsion away. And it's not actually me pushing you away, it's actually me stepping backwards. Again, they have enough comedians as ideas. So anyway, so that's love and fear. Yeah, Ava and Yira is a movement towards, the energy to go towards, that's Ava, and the energy to move away is Yira. Okay? Ava Mesuteres is not that, Bichlal. The Ava Mesuteres is expressing the relationship of the Yid to the Ribono Shel Olam. And that is so beyond emotion. It's got nothing to do with emotion. Emotions exist within that, but the actual relationship that the Jew has to God is what? Is that you are Him in the essence of your neshama. The essence of your neshama and God are one. That's called the yichida of the nefesh elokis. The essence of the godly soul is a chelek elokai mimao. That's what it is. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the emotion of love. We're talking about the Jewish connection to God. You could love God and you could not like him. If I've met people who say they hate God. Yeah, that's to do with your emotions, and that rises and falls. Like you'll see with your children. Sometimes you must love your children, and hopefully not much of the time, but other times you don't like them at all. Yeah, as with your wife, with all relationships, the emotions exist within the relationship, but the relationship, the fact that he is your son, yeah. Tell me what's that got to do with emotions? You've got a kid, yeah? You have a child? Not yet. You're married, yeah?
Yeah.
Bezrat Hashem. Okay. You have a son, yeah? Tell me what has emotion got to do with your relationship with your son?
Yeah, I mean, just it's derivative of
You realise the relationship with your son is completely beyond emotion. The word emotion doesn't. He's my son.
It's a wave.
It's
a wave
and you want it to be in a relationship. You want it to be a good. You want to have love more than But you need all the emotions, and it's going to go up and down. Whatever. But the relationship is the relationship. He's my son. Finished. What more do you say?
It's unconditional.
But it's not unconditional love.
It's unconditional relationship.
It's exactly whatever he does. Yeah. Now he could do things that are going to dent my love for him, or he could do things that would lift my love for him. But he can't do anything by definition that will stop him from being my son. By definition, there's nothing. I could tear kriya, I could scream and shout, I could whatever I do. Yeah, I could kill him. He'd still be my son. That's what we're talking. That's what's called the Av Masuteres. That's just what a neshama is. A neshama is the essence of the neshama is a chelik elokai memao. It is.
To me, it sounds almost like the tzaddik, the tzaddik relationship, because.
So this is why we have access now to the level of tzaddik v'toivloi. Exactly what you just said. Exactly.
When my daughter was born, I was going to say is this: when my daughter was born, I realized that there was a difference between my relationship with my wife and my relationship with my daughter. When my wife would say, "I need something," there would still be a lot of me in the question of, "Am I giving it to her or not?" And I would have to go through a little bit of Hakira is does she need it or does she want it?
Yeah.
She's like, I want to.
Can I be bothered? Does she deserve it?
Maybe she doesn't really need it. Maybe she just wants it.
Yeah.
We have to figure out what it really is. Because if it's a need, she deserves it. She's my wife. But if it's a want, then there's room to say.
She probably also deserves it. Anyway,
it's too expensive.
But with your kid,
right? But with the kid, there's no mind game that happens. It's like my kid needs something. That's it, right? And that's like the tzaddik relationship. Is like my kid's will is my will. It's just goes
that's
right
the oneness.
me.
That's the oneness. Meaning that is the difference. I've had this story. I told you this story. I said very Bekitza that my daughter was ill. I was on my way to do something that I wanted to do, and she called me. Abba, I need you. I need you to sit with me next to me on my bed, and without any, and this is the key word, without any cheshbon bichlal, I just turned around and I ran upstairs and I was sitting next to her bed, even at the expense of what I wanted to do. Now, if she had called me and said, Abba, I need you next to me, and I'm like, and then I'm thinking, look, a good Abba would go and not do this and go and sit next to his daughter. That's a Benoni. It's exactly what you're talking about. So now this is we're cutting right to the real point of the chapter, the way I understand it, is that this Av Moshe says he describes it when it expresses itself as a secular Jew, Kal Shabakalim, giving up his life because someone puts a gun to his head and says Hashem Echad or your life. It doesn't say your religion or your life. Why? Because he's talking to a secular Jew who's not religious bichlal. He says Hashem Echad or your life. And the secular Jew is marveling at himself. In his mind, the commentary if there is any commentary in his mind, the commentary would be saying, like, Harry, what are you doing? Just bow. He's gonna kill you. And he's like, and in his mind, there's this voice going, bow, just bow. This is real. This is serious. Bow to denounce Hashem Echad now. And he can't. That's now because this kesher, it's even like to call it a kesher, that's probably the best thing to call it, but it's not a kesher. It's like someone saying to you and say, Sruli, either you denounce being Sruli or that's it. You have to denounce being Sruli Wolfson or that's it. You're like, the brain fries out. You know, I can't do it. He said, no, you have to really renounce it. Yeah, and you know, I can't. That's what we're talking about here. Is when the yid gets put in a situation, a life and death situation, and there's two things that happens. The way the Rebbe explains it here is that the relationship, so to speak, or God in you, yeah, flares up. The essence of the neshama just goes like berserk, and it completely trumps or silences or discontinues the goof, the nefesh abahamis. It's better to say nefesh abahamis. Your human, your egoic self, your human self. So there's two things. The way the Rebbe explains it is that the nefesh elokis, the essence of the nefesh elokis, goes nuts, and therefore it just silences, so to speak, the human commentary, the egoic commentary. There's another option as well. It doesn't speak about, and I'm saying this from my Svara, where there could be such a terrifying experience where the human side of you is just discontinued, and then you can tap in to the nefesh elokis. Maybe you could call that a terrifying experience where people do tshuva. That's where tshuva could happen, where nobody said, okay, bow to the idol or I'll kill you. Yeah, so it wasn't that the nefesh elokis screamed. You just ended up in a really terrifying situation, which put the goof into shock, and all of a sudden you could now, so to speak, hear the essence of your neshama. But either way, the result is that a man who isn't living his life for God would give his life for God. And this is the most important point I know in Tanya, is we're not talking about the guys on October 7th who gave their life for God. Yeah, Rahmanas. They didn't do that at all. Giving up your life, Mesiras Nefesh in the Tanya, is this, where your humanity is marveling at you. Your ego is looking at you going, what are you doing? He's serious. He's going to kill you. And you give up your life. The October 7th next, Yamach Shemam, it was their humanity that was causing them to give up their life. They didn't have their human voice inside going, Mahmoud, sit down. Don't do this. This is crazy. He's like, they had the voice inside them going, yeah, you're going to get your, whatever you're going to get. You're going to get your virgins. You're going to get your martyrdom. You're going to get your this or that. The human, now this is the point, yeah? There's your humanity, let's say there's your goof, and then there's your metzias. The metzias, yeah? If you will give up your goof for your metzias, if the metzias is Allah and the virgins and martyrdom, yeah, if that's your whole life, yeah, that's your metzias, and you'll give your goof up for that. Yiddish Mesiras Nefesh is giving up the metzias, not the goof. That's just a by the way. That's irrelevant. He's giving up his metzias. That's why the ego is inside going, Harry, bow down now. That's the metzias. And Harry, because he is connected to reality, mamash, without any reason, without any understanding of the situation, gives up his life. And that's why he writes, and this is an important idea, he says, Ala Roiv, he says, Ella, blishim da'asicha. Yeah, and this is Lechein, and therefore, he explains this all, and therefore, afilu kal shebakalim, poishe Yisrael, they say, mamash poishe Yisrael, moisrim nafsham, al kedushas Hashem, in brackets, ala roiv, in the majority of cases. V'soidlim inuyim koshim, they go through torture. Shaloi lichfu b'Hashem echad. Not the religion, because that would be the same as October 7th. There's nothing unhuman about that. Humans throughout all the ages have given up their life for their religion, for their political freedom, for their money, for
profit.
some kind of profit to them at Seus. Exactly.
Giving up on Seus doesn't give you a profit.
But I mean, it's just
Well-
happened with the hostages. The hostages, all the there were so many stories.
All did tshuva.
Whoa.
That while they were saying, declare that Allah is whatever, and we'll give you a piece of bread.
And they did or they
and
didn't?
They did it. They kept
Yeah, this is
saying,
the.
and
So he says
these
ala
were-
roiv.
They had no. They were no.
That's
you know,
ala
they came
roiv.
out saying these stories.
This is ala roiv. So let me ask you a question, and this bothered me for a long time until I understood this. What about the people who don't? Ala roiv means there's Yidden who get your God or your Hashem Echad or your life. And there's a myriad of people who give up who bow down to the idol. How do you deal with that? It kind of soisa the whole thing, yeah.
Right.
Where's
the nefesh elokis?
Yeah, exactly. So this is how I've understood it now, and I think in this generation, again, this is just conjecture. Who knows? And I'll explain why. Again, just my own thoughts. I didn't even hear this from my Rebbe. This is me freestyling. Yeah, that in our generation, I think that the miyut would be a bit bigger than in previous generations. Meaning that maybe in our generation, less people would give up their life. Why? Again, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But this is the svara. Yeah, is Shalom Aleichem. When would this shock you? Yeah, a guy jumps off of the Golden Gate Bridge to commit suicide, and as he's flying down, he has about 3 seconds. Yeah, 3 seconds of thought. You can think about a lot of things. Would this shock you if you somehow found out that those 3 seconds of thought were dedicated to, I really hope someone's getting this on camera? Imagine this is going to go viral. Would that shock you if you heard that? Nor me. It wouldn't shock me at all. Now in that
That's
step,
the miyut though, because most people would be on the way down being like, oh, oops.
well, but this is the point.
You wouldn't be shocked if that was a thought?
I wouldn't be shocked. I would be distraught and distressed and depressed and angry, but I wouldn't be shocked that a guy's flying down dying and he's thinking about how many likes he's going to get on YouTube. Yeah, as he splats, this is going to go viral. But now this is the point. Is in our generation, in previous generations, the levusha machshava never ran away with the people like it has in our generation. No one's dealing with the levush of machshava like we are in our generation. Even 20 years ago, Kol v'chomer 100, Kol v'chomer 200 years ago.
Our generation spends more time on the internet than we do sleep.
Either way,
That's how we grow.
however it
That's how
happened,
our brains
whatever. But the point is that you're. That's why the depression. We've never been so affluent ever. Yeah, and where's the biggest depressions is in America, in the affluent places, because depression is. I don't want to judge anyone, but on the way that we're talking about it here, yeah, it's a din on machshava. It's a din on thinking. So our levush machshava has gone so out of control that if the levush machshava has become so thick, yeah, that accounts for the alaroi, the miyut who don't. That there could be an anomaly, like what's it called, a mutation, or it's really a sickness. There could be a sickness, because really, after we've just described this, we would say that every single Jew, there should have never been a case in history where a Jew didn't give up his life rather than bow to the cross. We know that's not true. But this is the Inyan, is that, and I saw someone, I asked this question years ago before I had an answer to a guy who was knowledgeable in Tanya, and he quoted me. He said they found in Rav Shogafaiva Mendelovich's, he was Kashur to Tanya, yeah? They said they found in his Tanya next to this point here, if I remember correctly, I don't remember the order, but in this here, a little side note, yeah, it said Chalav Akum, Chometz B'Pesach, and boil nida. That's I'm pretty sure.
Or
What?
these three things are.
Those three things, I mean, you understand that in context, l'choira, that would do something to the machshava. I don't know, I'm just trying to tell you, the reason why he only says here, ala roiv, only the majority of Yidden would give up their life, and not all Yidden, is because of a kind of mutated lavusha machshava that could actually still conceal this. But that's a miyut. I'm just trying to...
I don't understand the chalav akum. Why?
No, again, I'm just telling you, I don't know. He just said three things, but it makes sense if it's to do the chalav akum, boil nida, and chametz for Pesach. Plugging it to what we just said, it would sound like those three. I don't know. I'm just telling you what this guy said to me. Yeah, when I asked him the question, because this was a difficult question.
They don't belong in the same sentence.
You have to ask with Shlomo Feiber about that. I'm just trying to tell you that there's the Inyan here. Again, I don't even know if he was miscovering what I'm saying. I don't know. But when the Levusha Machshava gets so intense, yeah, it could be that the Nefesh Elokis could, in whatever situation, wouldn't penetrate it, and I don't know if it could, if there would be ultimately it would be able to. I don't know. But now this is the reason why we have access to the level of Tzaddik V'Tov Loi more than the level of Tzaddik V'Ra Loi. And this is, I'm sure I've said this, but I'll just tell you this Torah. I mean, and it's for Hanukkah. Is I've definitely said this, but you can never hear this too many times. That in Parshas Ba'aloisecha, it says that Aaron lit the menorah, and then the pasuk says Vayaschain Aaron, yeah. Vayaschain, and he did so. He lit the menorah, and he did so. And Rashi says that he was not lo shina. He didn't. He did the halacha as it was prescribed. He didn't change the halacha. Yeah. So this is the Lubavitch Rebbe said this. I heard this from my Rebbe explain this in the name of the Lubavitch Rebbe. That what do you mean lo shina? Well, that's the shevach of Aaron. The shevach of Aaron is that he did the halacha according to the parameters of the halacha. I also do halachas according to the parameter of the halacha. Why is that the shevach of Aaron? Listen to this. That you know the story of Levi Yitzchak B'Ditchev. There's a machlokes in the Gears of whether it was when Sukkot was ending and it was with Tefillin, or when Sukkot was beginning it was with Arba Minim. Either way, that he ended up putting his hands through the glass cabinet as the time came. Well, not the story is true, I don't know. But the point is the point. As the time came, yeah, for the mitzvah, he was just so. He just didn't see the glass, and he went with such ferocity that he cut his hands up through the glass. Yeah? You've heard of the tzaddikim who just, they would just, like you can't imagine them having to deal with the psilus and the shemen and the fine motor skills necessary to set the menorah up. If you see Rav Shlomo Meyer on Hoshana Rabbah with his lulav and esrog, yeah, there's no way that he could have done the mitzvah of the hadlaka in the Kodesh HaKadoshim with the menorah. If he's like that with the lulav and esrog, yeah, it would just be carnage. There'd be broken glass, oil, fire. He'd be in the corner just covered in oil on fire, just like out of roiv. How would you be able to contain yourself? Yeah, I'm just joking, but you get the idea, yeah? So you think that Aaron HaKohen had any less emotional connection to the mitzvah than the tzaddikim of 200-300 years ago? That was the shevach of Aaron. That he was able to, I keep remembering this I had, when I was in the beginning of my career as a wedding photographer, I had a situation where I had, before I used assistants and stuff like this, yeah, I had a knotted cable that I needed to bring to the chuppah to plug in my flash there, and the colour was already walking down the aisle. Imagine trying to unknot a big knotted cable and you take a picture of the bride as she's walking down the aisle to the chuppah, yeah? I just remember I felt myself just go, bleh. It was just, I couldn't do it, yeah? Lahavdil. So the idea of being in such a mitzvah, you're in the Kodesh, yeah? With the menorah, yeah? You're the Kohen Gadol, the most holy man on the planet, yeah? And you're having to do this extremely fine thing, twisting you've ever set up candles before? Twisting the thing, and then you have to move these in and then, yeah? It would be impossible if you were a human being experiencing emotions. You just wouldn't be able to put those emotions to the side. That was the Shevach of Aaron HaKohen, is that he was a tzaddik gamor, which meant his emotions were l'shem mitzvah. His avenue was the shem mitzvah. There wasn't really a mensch there to be having emotions, but the mitzvahs are still being done with ava and yira. So now, is there ever an example of a mitzvah that you couldn't do because you were too overwhelmed with your love and fear? Of course not. We never have that experience. But this mitzvah, that you couldn't do the mitzvah because you were just so overwhelmed with your love and fear of God. When was the last time you couldn't?
Maybe we see the Bnei Aharon, what they did wrong.
No, I'm talking about you personally. You. I had a guy get in touch with me who did a DMT trip, and he told me that for 3 weeks afterwards, he literally couldn't say Shema. He literally couldn't say it because of the tears that were falling out of his eyes for 3 weeks afterwards. So just make sure you say it. It's all very nice, the tears and stuff, but you have to make sure you say the 6 words. Yeah. But when's there ever? There's never been an example of such a thing. I don't know. So this is what the Rebbe did. The Lubavitcher Rebbe took it. He said, "This doesn't exist. This is a hypothetical situation that happened one time for us to learn from. Yeah, where the Ava and Yira, which is usually the life of the mitzvah, that gives the mitzvah the geschmack and the hiddur, and it makes it into the real gift to Hashem. There's this one situation, 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, this one situation where the Ava and Yira would have stared the Maisa mitzvah. He wouldn't have been able, lahavdil, like my friend who couldn't say Shema because he was just crying his eyes out, lahavdil. This is the weirdest situation, the hypothetical situation, where the guy was having such emotion that he just couldn't have done la halacha. He just couldn't have done halacha. That's the Shevach of Aaron, that he was hardly human, meaning the part of us that has the emotions, you can't put them to the side. But he was so godly that because in this situation they were a steerer to the actual Maisa mitzvah, yeah, he was able to put them to the side. That's Vayas Chayin, and that's Lo Shina. And that is the Shevach of Aaron. So now that's a really nice thought, yeah? Something to go and tell people and whatever. What's the relevance to us? What's the relevance to us? And this was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the way I've understood it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe's entire philosophy. The point that he gave over again and again and again. He brought it from this story in the Torah and this story in the Torah and this story in the Torah and every story in the Torah. If you know it, if you understand it, he's saying the same thing over and over and over again. What's the relevance to me? Aaron HaKohen was burning with love and fear to such a point where he couldn't actually do the mitzvah. And because he's a tzaddik gamor, he was able to put the love and the fear to the side. Great. I don't have even Av and Yira that could enhance a mitzvah, let alone share a mitzvah. Where's the relevance to me? And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said like this, the way I understood it, is that you're right, but you've got other stuff that you can put to the side. You want to feel close to God. Yeah, you want to have meaning in your life. You want to go to Gan Eden. You want, whatever reason you've got to do the mitzvah for, you can put that to the side and just do the mitzvah like Aaron HaKohen without any love and fear. Not because your love and fear is getting in the way, because you just haven't really got any. Yeah, it's not heter to have love and fear. You should be fighting for love and fear. You should be trying to do everything you can to have love and fear. But most of us are in a situation where our love and fear is all over the place. It's in lots of different stuff, yeah? Not in our light in the menorah. So that's the experience of the relationship. That's the experience. What does your relationship with your son feel like?
What do you mean?
Exactly. It depends.
Right.
What's he doing? Is he cute? Is he all filled with he's been in the mud? So what does your relationship with him feel like? Those words don't make sense. They don't go with each other. What do you feel like? He's my son. Finished. That's the reality of a tzaddik gamor. And that's available to us. That's called lishma. That is now available to us.
What's that way? B'shas doing the chona or b'shas lighting the menorah, we should what? We should.
You should be doing everything you can to have love and fear.
No, but if I, let's say, in the moment, I just feel like,
Just remember that the halacha from Matan Torah, like this is the funny thing with my friend who was crying his eyes out. He couldn't say Shema because he's crying his eyes out, yeah? That's a fadicha. That's wrong. It's better to not have any love and fear and just say the 6 words in the mitzvahs we're in right now. Yeah, don't have any emotion and just be makabel all mal shemayim. Say yeah. What looks better? This guy's and he ends up missing the word shema. Yeah.
You're a slave to your emotions. Yeah.
The mitzvah is talui on the hagdara of the mitzvah. If you don't do the mitzvah lefi the halacha, it's all very nice. You put on the tefillin with tears and bikush and devekas and ava and yira and tanug nifla and chiba and devekas v'chule, yeah? But if it's apostle tefillin, the mitzvah tefillin didn't take place. There might be other nice things that happened, but the mitzvah tefillin didn't take place. In the mitzvahs that we're in right now, the halacha is the mitzvah. That's the mitzvah. Now, the Ava and Yira are wings that bring up the halacha. That's the experience. It's exactly the same as your relationship to your son. He's your son. Finished. Did you do the mitzvah? Is it in the mezuzah? Is it in the right place? Is it with the right parshias v'chulei? Yeah. Is it on the right side, etc.? Yeah. Okay. The mitzvah's chal. You did the mitzvah. Can you add hiddur mitzvah? Yeah, but the mitzvah's the mitzvah. There's this. It's called b'diavad. There's a baseline mitzvah, yeah, and you've done it there. Good. Now you can add hiddur to the mitzvah, but that's really an expression of your love. But the actual mitzvah is it's a binary thing. Who can put on tefillin better, me or Moshe Rabbeinu? We could do. There's no better or worse. You did it or you didn't do it. They're pasul, they're kosher. You did it right time, wrong time. Is it according to the parameters of the halacha? Then the mitzvah is chal. Now let's get involved in the emotion. But that's what the Lubavitch Rebbe says. What it really is what needs to be the most real part of everything. The bit that isn't human. That's the best way of saying it. That's a really nice way of saying it. The most real part is the actual halacha of the mitzvah. The emotions go on top of that, and the Rebbe is saying that in our Metzius now, we're so distracted and the love and fear is so far from us, it's much easier to put to the side the shlili,
What is shlili? I don't get it.
meaning, like I want meaning in my life. I want to be a good boy.
Just do the mitzvah.
Just do the mitzvah.
Focus on the mitzvah.
Again, I'm not trying to say that we should be striving as much as we can for Ava and Yira, but I'm just trying to say we're now in a position where we're so distracted that if we can just get connected to the actual parameters of the halacha in the least case scenario, that is an experience of the tzaddik gamor. That's what Aaron was doing in the Kodesh when he was doing the Pesidas. He had moved away his Ava and Yira, and he was just completely aligned with the is it the right Pesil? Is it the right length? Is the oil okay? Okay, good. Are the ones on the side, are they tilted in the right way? Good. Okay, now let's light. The minute he went outside here, or the minute he was like away from the Maisa Mitzvah, he probably just exploded. I know what could have happened to him, yeah? But that's the answer to the first question you asked, basically. That's why in our situation, the level of tzaddik v'ra'aloi is kind of concealed from us. and the level of tzaddik gamor is now available to us.
Wait,
That's
so repeat
the
that.
that's the
Because of
flip
that.
of reality.
Say it again. Because of that, tzaddik. Is that what you just said? Repeat that.
Yeah, you're missing it. There's too many Hagdahs, but yeah, it wouldn't make sense anyway. We'd have to.
No.
The tzaddik, the experience of the tzaddik viraloi is less available to us than the experience of the tzaddik gamor.
Okay.
If you listen to the shit,
I was copying that from before. You're saying, but because of something, and then you said that. Why did you bring that point home?
because of the reality of the Shabbos, good.
Well, that's just the mitzvah that we're living in.
That's how Hashem's wiggled the world, has manipulated the world to the point where we're now holding here.
While you were speaking about Aaron, thank you beautifully. Aaron saw his sons doing an avodah which is not shtelokadin.
Oh.
Yeah, it's vayidem Aaron. Yeah, you can say maybe al pi avodah.
Silent.
No, I want to say maybe al pi avodah. He saw that if you do Bisl Habes, you may flip out and into the wrong halachas because you're all over the place. And you're right. I mean, let's say Aaron thought the same. I'm also like this. I'm koching. I'm boiling when I'm afraid. I'm going to do the wrong thing. But he decided to do the avodah b'yidem. He decided to put everything on the side and to do it.
Very good. That was very good.